Did you know that the human body consists of 37.2 trillion cells? Let's talk about it more in today's video. The cell theory is a three-part theory proposed by Theodore Xymunn. According to the cell theory, cells are the fundamental unit of structure and function in living things. All organisms are made up of one or more cells, and cells arise from the other cells through cellular division. Let's talk about the first cell theory. Cells are the fundamental unit of life. The first cell theory is connected to the second cell theory. Every organism has cells. Our body is made up of cells. Cells make up the tissue in our body. Tissues makes the organs. Organs make the organ systems. And organ systems make the body. Now let's move on to the second theory, which states that all organisms are made from one or more cells. Humans, plants, and animals are made up of billions or maybe even trillions cells. But we are not only the organisms in this world. There are some organisms our eyes cannot see. Organisms like bacteria can only be seen if we use special tools. Bacteria is only composed of one cell, making them abundant in many places. The third part of the cell theory is pretty different from the other two parts. It explains how cells reproduce. Cells are produced from other cells. They divide to create new cells. There are two major types on how they divide, which are called asexual and sexual cell reproduction. Let's start with asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction involves only a single parent. The offspring is identical to the parent. All prokaryotes and some eukaryotes reproduce this way. We'll talk about prokaryotes and eukaryotes later. So back to the topic. There are three types of asexual reproduction, namely binary fission, fragmentation, and budding. Binary fission involves separation of an organism, making new cells with the exact same genetic material. Organisms like archaea, cyanobacteria, and amoeba use binary fission to reproduce. Let's move on to fragmentation. Fragmentation is a process where an organism splits into parts to make new organisms that will later grow into an organism that's genetically identical to its parent. Fungi, worms, and lichens are examples of organisms who use this method. Budding is a process of asexual reproduction where an organism's body grows a bud which then separates, turning it into a smaller version of its parent, but it will soon grow. Budding looks like something is growing from an organism, and then it separates. Hydra and yeast are examples of organisms who reproduce through budding. Now let's talk about the sexual reproduction among cells. Sexual reproduction involves two parents to reproduce, making their offspring genetically identical to neither of them. Cells can reproduce sexually through meiosis or mitosis. I mentioned prokaryotes and eukaryotes earlier. Prokaryotes are organisms that contain only one prokaryotic cell. It lacks a nucleus, but generally has a single chromosome located in the nucleoid. Prokaryotic cells are found in single-celled organisms, like bacteria. Eukaryotes, on the other hand, are organisms whose cells have a nucleus inside a nuclear envelope. Eukaryotic cells can be found in plants and animals. Here is the brief summary of today's video. Here are the links for the information used in making this video. Thanks for listening.